So we're catching up on Need for Speed Rivals. Of course, we paid a visit to the studio back when the game was sort of first revealed. You showed the game a little bit. What are you showing here at Gamescom, first of all, is to get us set?
Yes, you know, I don't know how many people saw the press conference. I was obviously up on that stage again with a room full of people and millions of people watching the live feed. So, you know, excuse if I was nervous, because you get nervous when you do that. Anyway, it's really focused on Alldrive, which is, you know, really the main innovation about how we seamlessly blend from single player, co-op and multiplayer in the same world. And then we dial this time into kind of the personalization that we're bringing back to Need for Speed, the way you express yourself through your vehicle and all the different options you can do so. And lastly, the progression, which is more, you know, the reason we talk about progression as progression, because you have progression in every game, but progression for us is a big sense because we are in this open world where you can play single player and co-op and multiplayer. It creates a different take on progression, which is something we went into, which is basically that we divide, you know, each level that you have in the game is a speed list. A speed list is a set of objectives that you need to achieve. You can do those in any order you want to. But what it means is effectively, if you play the game and I come into that game and you're playing single player, I play single player, we can still be playing our single player careers at the same time, even though you're level 2 and I'm level 20, and progress. So that's, you know, it's a very smart system actually, which I like, and simple. So it's really good.
So it's like you're not always racing for the same objective. You have different sort of objectives.
Yeah, exactly. You know, if you're level 20, you need to take out 8 racers throughout your time you're out in the world. Might be I would need to take out 1 racer. So if we're cops, then, you know, I'm in this. You have a more powerful car than I have, absolutely, because you've ranked up and kind of built that up. But I only need to take out 1 to complete my shot list, whereas you have 7 more to take out. So we can co-op even though we're on different levels.
It sounds brilliant, but it also sounds like it needs a lot of testing to get all those different levels to work together in all sort of different circumstances, and that must add a lot of sort of complexity.
Absolutely, and you know what? You know, I think we're going to learn stuff now up to we ship the game, and after we ship the game, we're going to learn even more. That's where, you know, it's good to be able to kind of update the game post-launch as well, which we have capabilities of doing.
It's playable here on the floor as well. People can sample it, or?
Yeah. Actually, it's playable at 36 stations in the main booth.
Not 36 players on one.
No, it's 36 stations, and you play 6 and 6 in kind of multiplayer environment. Co-op versus racers, time-based, very addictive, fun way of playing the game. And then it's also showable, you know, here behind closed doors, where we go kind of more into the personalization, the progression, and show us actually that's the absolute latest code we have. It's very close to alpha code, which means that you know, we basically have polish left to do.
So that's where you're at in development, which is one of my next questions. But so what does that mean? Because it's got to be quite a sort of a push now towards it. The final specs for the next gen consoles are sort of just, I guess you've had them for a little while. What's that sort of the last bit going to be now? Is it stressful?
It's like finishing any game, right? And you've been interviewing people long enough to know that when you interview them in May, they look a certain way. When you interview them in September, they look a different way. We're heading down that path as well. Absolutely, we're working hard. People in Gothenburg, the dev team is putting in, you know, long hours, but they make quality work. So it's in the end, being a game developer, I think, at least to me, I can talk to myself obviously, and people I know. It is about making that game be as good as possible, because you reach so many people with a game, and once it comes out, you know, some people will love it, some people will not like it, but you get reactions, and I think that is really the big motivator why you put in all those hours into the game.
It's really like next gen is really racing games at the forefront. There's a lot of games coming out there, and how do you see yourself sitting there next to sort of well, that's not next gen, but Gran Turismo 6, and you got Forza 5, you got Drive Club. Further on, you got The Crew, but it seems like almost every big publisher has a racing game of their own.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of always been like that, right? But you know, what we've seen the last couple of years is maybe racing games have kind of declined a little bit. It used to be in the kind of, I think it had a 22% market at one point, and now it's down to kind of single digits. But what's interesting with that, I think, is that not only I see a future in in racing games. Other publishers also see that there's obviously a need for great racing games, and what that having multiple studios do that at the same time, multiple franchises, is that we're going to help push that boundary forward. Because if you think about something, racing games have become stale. You go around in circles, shaving seconds off a lap. And you can do that in a nicer, shinier car, absolutely. But I think everyone needs to push forward. There's some really interesting other games out there as well. But I also think Need for Speed Rivals is really pushing it again with the kind of the Alldrive aspect of it, about the blending between single player, co-op, and multiplayer. So we're going to see great innovation from the competition out there. Remember, Need for Speed is the only game you can play co-op and racer, which is fucking fun. Sorry.
That's true. It's like the not in a bad way, but the popcorn racer, sort of like very quick fix, very sort of immediate action that anyone can jump into.
Yeah, and we've been working on that again, right? We know our consumers like that when we talk to them. It's really never been easier to kind of start a race in this version of Need for Speed. You basically go out in the world. There's a skill element to how you start a race and how fast you can get away. I think it's a really cool innovation, actually. Small, very tiny innovation, but it changes the way you approach race starts. But it is about that adrenaline rush and getting fast into action, having fun when you pick up the controller.
And of course, all those cars that you could never drive like that anywhere else.
Yeah. That's absolutely always part of it, right? And we got Ferrari back in the game for a long time. We haven't had that for 7 years, and I've certainly never driven an F12. I've been in one, but I've never driven one. But what I can tell you is that when you drive it, we put a lot of emphasis on what the camera and the car does when you touch the controller. Actually, as a side twist to this interview, when we started Ghost about 2.5 years ago, which we spoke about last time we interviewed, but the first people we brought in were really those low-level physics guys to make sure that we had a solid base to kind of start building from. And I do think that we see the result of that here. Something that also has helped us with that is working really closely with Criterion, and especially Craig Sullivan, the creative director, who's really anal about how the control, how the car looks, where it's positioned, how it, how it reacts, and how the camera is looking at the car when you control it. And I think that's where we are absolutely have hit 10 out of 10 already, and I think it's the best Need for Speed ever.
Because it's one of those things that you never think of to sort of in your mind when you're playing the game, but when it's off, you immediately, there's something wrong with it.
You feel it instantly. And as such, since I think that we are on the forefront, many other games I play now, even when I go back in older Need for Speed, it feels, as you said, a little bit off.
A little bit strange, yeah. So, of course, you're busy here, gonna have a few lovely months, and then it's sort of post-launch report and all that. So, how do you feel about Ghost now? Are you sort of up and running all where you want to be, or is it still a building experience with Ghost?
I don't think running a studio is never going to not be building. We're always building, building the culture, building better processes, better ways to come up with creative ideas. You always, I think, need to push forward. But am I happy where Ghost is? Absolutely. If you would have told me 2 years ago, in 2 years, Marcus, you'll be at Gamescom, you'll be showing this piece of code, you'll be nominated for this many games, I would take that. Absolutely, I would take it. So I'm very happy where we are.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.